you think you're royalty. You think that I'm afraid, but I don't break. I heard you question my stability. You think I'll fall just like a guillotine, but I am here to stay. Won't look away. The storm is coming, so you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the, coming for the. Coming for the throne. I'm coming for the throne. So you wanna be my enemy? You should've known I'd never kiss the rain. Ice runs in my veins, won't play it safe. I don't belong with your nobility. Who died and made you king of anything? You think that I'm insane?
Shoot to family. What's good with you? It's your boy 2A in LA, and as always, fam, anything I say in this episode, prior episodes, and future episodes is just my personal opinion. Don't take it as fact. Don't take it as law. Always do your own homework and come up with your own conclusions. Right about now, fam, I ask you go ahead and tap that like button for your boy. If you're new to the channel, I want to say welcome. Come on in. You can join the congregation by smashing that subscribe button and requesting all post notifications. And if you are an existing supporter of this channel, fam, I appreciate you more than you can possibly imagine. You are the reason this channel is anything. All right, fam, let's get into this episode. So we are here today to review the Fowler Vanta 9. If you haven't seen my initial impressions on the gun, make sure you go back and check that out, because I give you a lot of backstory on kind of my journey into being able to acquire a Fowler Vanta 9. I also talked about kind of the origins of the gun and some of the kind of comparisons that we're planning on doing. So go back and check that one out. But here, we're here to really hone in on my review of this aesthetically stunning gun, in my opinion. Alright, fam, if you haven't seen a 2A in LA review, generally speaking, you can get as low as a 0 or as high as 100. I've never had a gun that scored a 0, never had a gun that scored 100, but one can always hold out hope. Generally speaking, if you've got a gun that's right down the middle, you know, gonna go bang every time, but really no feels or thrills, think Glock 17 Gen 5 MOS, that gun is going to be a 50 to 60 gun. If you got something 60 to 70, that gun is kind of one step above the norm. Maybe it has a feature or two that make it stand out from your middle of the road guns. If you got something that's 70 to 80, that gun has more than just one or two features. That gun is very, very well made. It's probably a step above in terms of the manufacturing process. If you got something 80 to 90, now you're cooking with gas. Now you're starting to talk about guns that are kind of best in class, particularly if they fall between kind of the 85 and 89 range. And if you got something 90 or above, that's grail gun status. All right, fam, first up, let's get into the fit and finish of the Fowler Vanta 9. Look, fam, all metal gun, DLC coated, very well machined. Now, I'll say this, that my gun, when I got it, had a few hundred rounds through it already. So I can't tell you what it was like right at inception. One of the criticisms, if you want to call it that that people have about Fowler guns, that when you first get them, they aren't as smooth as you would like, because they require that break-in period. Some people consider that a flex, that tolerances are that tight, and that the gun gets gradually broken in. Some people view that as they need to do more work on the manufacturing process, because guns like Atlas and Venom and Rafferty and Hayes feel like they're broken in out of the box, and they even get better from there once you get some rounds through them. So, you know, to each his own. Relative to that, when I got my gun, it was relatively smooth. When I talked to the prior owner, he told me too that when he got it, ever so slightly, but it felt relatively smooth. It didn't have that Fowler bump that a lot of people talk about. So look, I think Fowler did a great job. I think it's very well done. I should also mention that it has the upgraded Valentine grip. To me, I love the aesthetics of this grip more than their traditional grip. I love the way it feels. I have both grips, the original and the Valentine grip, and I would say I like the aesthetics and the feel of this grip a lot more. Look, I think it's a very well done gun. For fit and finish, we're going to give it 14 out of a possible 15. All right, fam. Next up, reliability. So look, fam, I put well over 1,000 rounds through the gun so far. It also had a few hundred rounds on it when I got the gun, and it ran flawlessly. I mean flawlessly. Now, a lot of times I'm hesitant to give a gun a 15 out of 15 without there being a larger sample size, either shot by me or shot by people as a whole. Because even if my gun run flawlessly, it's still a sample size of 1 of 1. But Fowler has been making guns for quite some time now. There's a lot of data out there on the Vanta 9, and all lead to the same conclusion that I came to, and that is that the gun is highly reliable. For reliability, we're going to give it 15 out of a possible 15. All right, next up, fam, durability. So look, I'll go ahead and I'll put up the specs there so you can check those out. I feel like the gun is very, very durable. DLC coated, all metal gun, manufactured really, really well. I feel like they didn't spare any expense. They didn't try to cut any corners, which is part of the reason why the gun costs what it costs. So yeah, I feel like the gun is highly durable. For durability, we're going to go ahead and we're going to give it a 15 out of a possible 15. All right, fam, next up, trigger. Look, fam, you guys know your boy is a trigger snob. I am very, very hard to please when it comes to a trigger. Now, most 2011s, that's their bread and butter. That's where they eat. But all 2011 triggers are not made equally. Atlas triggers, Infinity triggers, they're different. I love them. Red Dirt makes a great trigger too. I gotta say, I love the trigger on the Fowler. So look, it has just very little take up, not a lot. Clear defined wall, crisp clean break. Let me let you see the reset. Oh, it's a short reset. It is so smooth. Look, I'll put up the trigger weight up there so you guys can check that out. But I'm loving the trigger. For trigger, I'm going to give it a 14 out of a possible 15. All right, fam. Next up, ergonomics. How does a gun feel in the hand? I got to say, fam, I upgraded the grip module to the Valentine grip. I think it's a significant upgrade over the original grip module, in my opinion. It just feels so much. I won't say that I dislike the original grip model. It was a metal grip module. It felt good too, but I like a little tackier grip. And I feel like this is that without being so aggressive that it's gonna destroy your hands. It's almost grip perfection. I'm not gonna lie. This could be, the Atlas grip has been my favorite grip, and it's because of the modularity of the Atlas grip. But I tell you what, this is damn close. Damn close. Ergonomics, I'm gonna give this gun a 10 out of a possible 10. All right, fam. Next up is accuracy. And I should say, fam, look, there's a difference between being an accurate shooter and a precision shooter. I always say accuracy is being able to put a shot, you know, in the area you wanted it, and think all A-zone hits, for example. And I say precision is being able to put the shot exactly where you want it, think bullseye, right? So I'm talking a little bit about that, but I'm also talking about even more than that when I talk about accuracy. I'm talking about the shootability of the gun. What is the shooting experience? What is your ability to shoot the gun as accurately as possible, particularly at higher rates of speed? How flat does the gun shoot? Does the dot leave the window? Those kinds of things, right? For accuracy, we're going to score the gun a 9 out of a possible 10. All right, fam, these next two categories we're going to lump together, and that is maintenance and upkeep and aftermarket support. Look, fam, at some point, I may just have to, I generally, for most 2011s, particularly when they have a toolless guide rod like this and a typical breakdown, I usually give a 4 for maintenance and upkeep. We're going to roll with that here. For aftermarket support, I usually give a 4 out of 5, because when I think about aftermarket support, 5 out of 5 perfection, I'm thinking about Glock and the size of the aftermarket support for Glock. But I can't lie to you, fam. I think sooner rather than later, for aftermarket support, 2011s are going to start running at a 5 out of 5 too. But for now, we'll give it 4 out of 5 for maintenance and upkeep, 4 out of 5 for aftermarket support. All right, fam. Next up is affordability. This gun runs, just depending on the grip module, the color scheme, between $5,500 and $6,000. It is a pretty penny for the Fowler Vanta 9. Normally, when you're in that $6,000 range, that is unaffordable for most people. So yeah, usually that's gonna earn you a 1 out of a possible 5 for affordability. All right, fam, last but not least, flex. Is Instagram gonna go crazy? Are your boys gonna be like, damn? Are the haters gonna be jealous? Yes they are. They're going to be very upset. That is okay by me. I said that aesthetically, Fowler makes one of the most attractive guns that you will see out there in the wilderness, and I just think they knock it out of the ballpark with aesthetics. It's one of the best looking 2011s in my opinion on the market right now. Flex points, 4 out of a possible 5. All right, fam, so look, when you add all of that up, you get a whopping 90 out of a possible 100 points for the Fowler Vanta 9 ported. It hits grail gun status. Look, fam, I told you guys, kind of 85 to 89, you're talking best in class. 90 or above, you're kind of in grail gun territory. I would definitely call the ported Vanta 9. It is a grail gun. So if you look at kind of the guns that have hit grail gun status on the channel, they have been the likes of Atlas. They have been the likes of Hayes. They have been the likes of Venom. They have been the likes of Combat Precision Dark Horse. They have been Infinity, right? Rafferty. And so only a few have found their way into the 90s. So, and I feel like it is well deserved. The question now becomes, is Fowler sitting atop of the mid-tier with just a few other firearms, like the Combat Precision GT Dark Horse, like the Race City Defense RC9? Like your boy's upgraded staccato XC? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's battling against all the other mid-tier players out there, and maybe it's getting the best of them, or maybe it's right with them, right? The thing is, I think if you talk to a lot of people out there, they'll tell you that they think Fowler is just as good as Atlas. Is it? Is it? Is it on that? Is it really a step above all the mid-tier guns? And should I be looking at it with the heavy hitters in the industry, like the Atlas Gunworks Apollo, like the Hayes Cobra Triport, like the Venom Customs Triport? I mentioned in my early video that the Fowler had a lot of the same DNA as the Cardinal out there, so we'll be running it up against the Cardinal sooner than later, right? Has a lot of the similar DNA as the Combat Master Series Terran Tactical. So let's put it up against a Terran Tactical gun. Now this isn't the Combat Master Series, obviously. This is the Sand Viper, which is manufactured elsewhere. But look, let's see. Let's see. If you want me to run it against one of my Infinity pistols, I'm happy to do that as well. Let's see how people should be considering Fowler when they talk about the Vanta 9. I have heard many people say that Fowler is just as good as Atlas. In fact, I've heard people say that when they got their Fowler Commander, they sold their EOS. I've heard people say when they got their Fowler, they stopped shooting their Apollo. Let's see. Let's see. Now I've got it in my hands. Before it was more speculation, right? Because I didn't own one. But now I do. Now I do. So let's put Fowler head to head. I'm sure Fowler is not worried about it. They feel like their gun can run with any gun that's currently being manufactured, as they should. I will tell you that aesthetically, it is just as stunning as almost any 2011 out there. I think only some of the Infinity models cast a longer shadow, but yeah, and Infinities obviously cost, $3,000 to $4,000 more than the Fowler Vanta 9. So I think aesthetically they do it. But let's get out and let's run it against some of these other guns. So be looking out for that. In the meantime, I'm loving my Fowler. An 89 out of 90 is awesome. Just awesome. All right. That's it for this episode, fam. Until next time, as always, take care of one another and peace.